me. Now we can take question and comments. And Mr. Ashley, please know that you are going to give the rapport eventually. So, microphone. I'm just saying so that we don't...
One of the slides when you were talking about the relocation of Europeans from the Marina area to the second part of the canal, the other side of the canal. And you said that all the development was pushing in that way. Is it true then that the upper side was actually the province of the Oba? So they weren't going to be involved in that area because that's the area of the Oba and its followers.
Whatever, I mean, I read maps. I use maps to tell a story or confirm or throw out a proposition. But planning, I'm an architect, so you can plan a situation. The moat was planned to separate Ikoyi from the island, from Lagos Island. Or it was now no longer one Lagos. You distinguish Iko from Ikoyi, so they became two entities. There's only that division line between the European areas and the local areas. So there was no room for expansion. And let's not forget that the Oba had no powers anymore. This was now a colonial government. They owned the land. So the only areas they could expand, that commission to expand to, was out into Lagoon and beyond back to Edo and Butemeta, Sulele, and that's why Lagos is still growing in that direction, going outwards. Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Theo, for that very inspiring lecture. We had the same background in Igbobi College, colonial upbringing. I'm not sure whether this is actually a question directed at the speaker, but I just want to pose something. Against the backdrop of the kind of information that has been deduced from this lecture, is there still a case for the Nigerian entity? Thank you.
My name is Sojaki. Mr. Lawson, thank you very much for your extensive, informative lecture. I've learned a lot. First of all, police stations are the entry posts of all GRAs. It certainly makes sense. My concern really is the way Nigeria, and I'm not addressing it to you, it's a public statement, that the way I see Nigeria evolve, or is evolving, as it turns out that Lagos is at 50 this year, and I turn 50 this year. So it's important for me to, it's a type of reflection of how I feel that a city or a country that I'm a part of, how is it evolving? Now, it was clear that colonial masters had an agenda, right? And obviously the agenda was to take as much, extract, and obviously put themselves in some form of, to separate themselves, which we've seen in other parts of the world, more recently in South Africa with apartheid. Now my concern, as we looked at the last slide, and we saw lots of young Africans literally getting into the bellies of whales to get into Europe. And I'm saying that what is the conversation today with the haves against the have-nots in Africa, so that therefore we can give hope to lots of young people who cannot find hope here and have to find it literally going through the belly of the world. Thank you.
And there's this invisible cry or call from Europe, from Americas, from wherever we have kept the artifacts that were stolen from here, calling on us to come and save them, come and return them back home. And that's the only reason why these guys will kill themselves to cross deserts, cross ships, cross oceans, or canals or channels, risk death for no good reason. So why the eccentric, almost eccentric travel or excursion on such a dangerous mission? So I say the spirit of Africa lies abroad, because our spirits, our hearts, our history, our gods, or our symbols our ancestors sit in museums, in glass boxes, museums all over the world, calling on us to come and save them. That's just a theory, but that's just my artistic thinking.
Thank you very much for a very wonderful lecture. I have mixed feelings. First, that I learned new things about developing the city of captives. The second feeling is that I'm a bit angry, especially when I read the content of some of those treaties. My question, I don't know if it's best directed at the speaker or if there are members of the audience who have answers. How were the content of those treaties interpreted to the kings, to the native authorities? Because I want to assume that the king was not literate then. So how were they interpreted? And how, of course, eventually, from what we read, from the information provided, they were forced to eventually sign this. But how were they communicated the content?
Silent. Difficult to duly observe. I just want to go straight to the point. My question is that you said something about Europeans exploited Africa, but I did not agree because I don't think some people from another country or from another continent explored we by ourselves. Because I think that Africa is in us. We are Africa. We are not a country. We are the real Africans. Humans are Africans. So I cannot say that an European came into my continent and exploited me myself. So I think, what can you say? Do we really need to abide by their own ideology of saying they exploited us as Africans, or we should believe in ourselves that we are the real Africans, or we are not created, or we are not in, I don't know how to put that in English. So I hope so that some of us or some of the young ones here could really understand why we are really Africans, or the reason why Europeans are not more stronger in us. Thank you. I'm 14.
You're 14 years old. Okay. Do you learn history in school? You learn history in school?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You learn history in school?
Yes, sir.
I've asked you to mention some of the past African kingdoms.
I know of Daomé, I know of the New Kingdom, I know of Ife, I know of the Yoruba land, I know of Oil Empire.
Please tell us about what you've been taught in school. What you've been taught in school.
Okay, they told us history. In the Oil Empire, they tried to explain how the king came to existence, like how they brought, like from the beginning, the real how Olofin, and how they interact with each other. And they told us more about the fight between Alafin and the king of Oyo, which is Oyo, what's it called? Oni of Ife, thank you. Oni of Ife. So they do teach us more about both of them in the Yoruba land and how Yoruba is being treated in Nigeria. And let's move to the northern side of Nigeria. They tell us about past kings. They tell us about Queen Zainab, Queen Aminat, and so on. And in the East, they do teach us more. They don't really teach us more about the people from the eastern part of Nigeria, about their history. They tell us about their gods. And so we as students, we need to make researches on our own. So we have to go online, try to read more about the history.
From Pan-African Consciousness Renaissance. I want to thank the presenter for a brilliant and explicit delivery, the person of Nelson. However, I want to point out some things. I think Mr. Nelson did mention the fact that the 1914 amalgamation of the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate was, I think, politically motivated. And I beg to differ. I think the amalgamation of that territory, more than any other thing, was economic motivated. Lugard needed to use the wealth of the wealth of the Southern Protectorate to lubricate the development of the Northern Protectorate. And if there was anything that was instructive about Nigerian history, it was the amalgamation of 1914. I actually want to make reference to the position of the brother athletes, unfortunately, wherein he used the terminology colonial master. For me, I really think at this material point in time, there are some concepts, there are some words, there are some terminologies that we need to throw into the trash can of history. And one of those terminologies is colonial master. We never had colonial masters. We never had colonial masters. You see, when you use terminologies like these, consciously or subconsciously, it tells you that when you have some people that were superior and these people came, there was nothing like that. If there was anything colonial we had, in the 20th century, we had no other set of people but colonial criminals, colonial exploiters. All of these points must be applied because we have legal rules. For instance, the brother came outside and apparently you will see that there's a lacuna in our educational system. Talk about the study of history. It has been relegated back to the background. So I think at this particular point in time, just like the young brother did say, we must consciously make researches on our home in order to better this continent. Thank you.